Put a smile on your face when you're moving from place to place. Good morning, good morning, morning.
Welcome back to the morning show on Tobago Updates Television. I am Adanna Combie, and we continue conversations with our guests in studio. We are speaking with Rohdill Kirk, and he is Rohdill Kirk, and he is Superintendent of Trinidad and Tobago Police Services. We're talking this morning about updates on things that happened in and around Tobago over the weekend and the past week, and also a little bit about road safety. Good morning, Superintendent, and welcome to the program.
Good morning, Adanna, and good morning to your listeners and to your viewers.
Right. So, of course, we go straight into the conversation. We want to know what has been happening in and around Tobago over the past week and over the weekend in terms of the position of the T.T.P.S. and what has happened.
Well, what we have seen after the carnival, we know that we had a bumper carnival, but what we have seen so far that Tobago remains quiet. Our major crime on the island is that of housebreaking and burglary. And what we have seen that the police have stepped up their game, and you would have seen in the public space that a number of items from some of these crimes were recovered recently. So soon you will see persons appearing before the court for some of these offenses that took place over the past week or 2 week span.
Right. So we're doing good. We're doing good in terms of recovering.
Well, I will say that, Anna. I just want to commend my officers for the hard work that they have been doing over that week. You know, crime is always there, and the fear of crime. And what we are trying to do is to minimize that fear of crime so that people can go about their daily lives.
Right. So in that period of the Tobago Carnival week and weekend, and coming out of that, what has the crime situation itself been like for that period? I know you said it's quiet, but has there been any activity or any movement at all?
No. If generally speaking, we had minimal. I think if we had about 2 reported incidents, I would just give that as a benchmark, but we didn't have anything major of major concern that I can speak about. Right, but going forward, since that carnival period to now, we have enjoyed a fairly reasonable, could see with quiet period, with minimal crime reported, and that is something good that we can talk about.
Okay, so we must commend you, because I know a lot of strategy was put in place in terms of keeping us safe through that period, you know, on the road, and for persons who don't participate in Carnival as well. I know we spoke to some of your officers prior, and they kind of gave us that reassurance. So we're very happy to hear that we had a safe Carnival period and that nothing has happened since then.
Yes.
Right, so we want to talk a little bit about road safety. How do we use the road safely for ourselves and for other motorists, and also for pedestrians as well?
Well, as you know, Adanna, the police has always been out there campaigning about being road safe. And you would have seen Mr. Batson on many occasions at the TV talking about road safe. What we have recognized is that so far, nationally, we have seen an increase in our fatal road traffic accidents. To be exact, looking at the data, we so far for the year have 87, but within the Tobago space, we have at least about 9 reported cases of fatalities. When we look at the comparison to last year, 3. We know that something is happening in the space, that we need to go out and reach out to encourage drivers, motorists, pedestrians to be very careful on the roadways. Because what we recognize, if drivers, most accidents are caused by either human error or vehicle defect. So what we are urging people to do is drivers to obey all the road traffic rules and regulations. We have seen where accidents happen due to speeding. We have seen where people drive while intoxicated or drive under the influence. So what we are doing as the police, we are stepping up our game in terms of having many road operations and exercises that includes DUI checks and speed. So you see, again, we are out there warning the public what we are going to do. So we are asking persons that when you're using the roadway, obey all the road regulations and drive within the required speed limit. Don't use alcohol whilst driving. We also ask you to avoid the major distractions. You know, people pick up their phone whilst going down the road, or they're texting and so on. And look at the unfortunate incident happened just a couple weeks ago, where a young lady lost her life. I am not saying maybe one of many factors which resulted in the accident, but you would have seen where even on the night in question, the driver of the other vehicle was a DUI test was administered, and he was found over the limit. So I'm just urging members of the public, when you pick up your vehicle in the morning, do a physical inspection, because your vehicle could be defective that you're going on the road. Do that inspection, check, make sure all your vehicles, your parts, everything is in working order before you get on the road. We also urging pedestrians that when you're on the street, again, you will see pedestrians crossing the road daily. They will cross at areas that are not designated. That is one. They will be crossing and just paying attention to their cell phones, etc. So we are asking people to be more aware when using the roadways. That is one of the things that we are going to be out doing, and we are going to be out doing our operations on a daily basis.
Because something like some more public education, I mean, of course, when you access a driver's permit, the legal way, that is, you know the rules, because you have to go through the process, you have to do your assessment, you have to do all these things before you actually go on the road for your final assessment to be issued a driver's permit.
Yes.
Right? So we know what we are supposed to do. But do you think that something like a public education drive is what is needed to ensure that people really truly understand and appreciate the things that they need to do on the road to maintain their safety of other motorists and pedestrians alike? Because you're right, sometimes we neglect the fact that there are other people on the road. We think it's just us and we drive to suit ourselves. So I think, what do you think about a public education drive to constantly be out there pumping the information to our publics?
That has been, I mean, we continuously do that. And as a driver, it's your responsibility, because you as a driver or a pedestrian, you owe a duty of care to other persons using the road. It means, that is saying that your action could result in consequences, or your inaction. So you owe a duty of care to other persons using the road. That is one of your primary responsibilities. So for me, it's just like, okay, when you travel on a plane, sometimes when you're outside, you'll see the pilot come around and do some, because he knows what his responsibility is. Just like a licensed driver, he must know what is his responsibility, even though, because we keep hammering it home about, hey, you need to take a time out, you need to check, you need to drive within the speed limit, you need to do this. People just wantonly disregard regulations and rules. And those are the people who we will be out there targeting. Because, you know, when you look at how some people drive, in Tobago, the roads are very narrow. The roads are, well, you could get nowhere. Any point you want to get to Tobago, you could do so under 10 minutes. I'm just saying that. And people drive that speed like if they're on Formula One racing. When you look at it, pass down on the Claude Noel anytime after 10 p.m. and you will see how drivers operate on the roadway. They would not exercise that level of caution. They would overtake. They would overtake dangerously. They would. It says it all. You will go out there and you experience it yourself. So this is one of the reasons why we continue to come here. We continue to say it. We use other mediums by which we could get the message out. But there are some who are bent on breaking the traffic laws.
Especially using a roundabout.
Right? That is the next issue. You will see how they would dip in and out, and they will come around and don't give regard for the vehicles coming from the right.
That's right. That's right. I've experienced it myself as well. You know, I have had those type of experiences where you see people, like, you're wondering, am I in the right or am I wrong? So, I mean, out of an abundance of caution, you just wait and allow them to go past. But I am wondering now, how are we in terms of laying, whether it's charges or implementing the policies, like actively, so that these road users can understand, listen, there are penalties, there are repercussions for your actions on the road, right? You cannot be selfish. There are other people, lives are at stake. We have seen where
Of
people have
course.
lost their lives due to reckless driving, as you said, defective vehicles and stuff like that. And we've seen there's a period where there's inspection period where everybody rushed to get their vehicles inspected. But is it something that we should try to encourage throughout the year, that people ensure their vehicles are road safe, and that they are driving? There's something, I don't know what the implementation is in terms of ensuring people are held accountable for their action, or as you said, their inaction as well.
Well, that is what I'm here to do, is to tell you from here going forward, we are going to look into all those issues. We know that Tobago have a challenge in terms of the amount of inspection stations available. And you would have seen in the past where the Transport Commissioner would have came here and he would have mentioned and he would have put out the challenge to persons or business persons to engage or, have premises registered so that they can carry on the business as well. We know there is a challenge, but at the same time, don't wait for the rush. The limited few that are here, if you, check your vehicle and ensure that you get into that habit, you wouldn't have to rush at the end of the day to say you're going to the stations to now inspect your vehicles to make sure that it's roadworthy. That is something that you should be doing as a responsible person right through. So again, while I share your view with the public education campaign, which we have not stopped doing, I am saying that the individual himself has a responsibility to treat with his vehicle and vehicle defects.
And the next thing, again, the pedestrians. You mentioned it earlier.
Right.
Pedestrians think that they have, from my assessment, and this is just my opinion, that they have the right of way when walking on the streets. You see them in their phones, you see them having conversations, you see them crossing the streets slowly, and they say, well, bongs mina, in our local parlance. And they don't give regard to the driving public.
That is the next thing. That is why I mentioned it early, that sometimes pedestrians do contribute to incidents on the roadway. And whilst we as what we're supposed to do as persons using the road, whether drivers or pedestrians, we're supposed to exercise that level of caution, that consideration, care, courtesy. If you keep these in your mind, what I also want to encourage even drivers to do is to practice defensive driving. When you're using the roadway, you ought to know how to recognize the hazard when you see one. You have to be able to understand the defense you are going to employ faced with a situation. And then you have to know how to act correctly in time to avoid any sort of incident. So again, it's a nice point you bring up with the pedestrians. Pedestrians do act that way sometimes, and they are partially to blame for some of the incidents that occur. And I want to urge pedestrians that you too could find yourself on the other side of the law if you do not obey the traffic rules and regulations whilst using the roadway, just like any other person.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're speaking with Superintendent Rohdill Kirk, and we're talking about road safety. The responsibility really is ours. It is mine. It is yours, that we take accountability for our actions when using the nation's roads, whether we are driving or whether we are pedestrians. Be alert, be considerate for the other user of the road, and let us try to maintain a high level of safety as we get to and from where we are trying to go on a daily basis. Thank you guys so much for staying with us here on the morning show on Tobago Updates Television. We do really appreciate you, and we are going to go for a short break, but of course we invite you at this point in time to share the live, share the live, share the live. We'll be back.